your marks, you will be focusing on Animal Farm, Power and Conflict, and Unseen Poetry. A lot of this revision booklet does focus on that. In class, you're probably going to be doing a lot of language, so the booklet is making sure that you are revising Animal Farm. Now, one of the things that we've given you is we're giving you some information. We're giving you a question. We have given you some information to help you think about this question. And then it's about planning your ideas in terms of what you would answer. So this is about revising, planning. And then on the other side, as you can see, you need to have a go at writing your own petal, or maybe one or two, or petal, paragraph. Okay, petal. You want to say a few things. Now I'm going to show you a bit of a paragraph, but this is more about helping you and see what you can come up with. So the question that we have here is, how far does Orwell present Snowball as the hero of Animal Farm? Now, I'm sure this is actually from a past question, so it's a question focused on Snowball. Now, one of the things that we need to remember is that Snowball is symbolic of Leo Trotsky. Now, Leo Trotsky was one of the people that was part of the Russian Revolution. He was a key figure, and it was between Trotsky and Stalin. So he is actually the opposition to Napoleon, and so Napoleon is Stalin. And one of the things that you might want to think about him, he seems to be really interested in rebellion. He's really interested in the rebellion and spreading those ideas. He gives great speeches, but he's also the one that is concerned around like the animals' education. So he wants to educate the animals. The other thing that you got here is the idea of hero. He's the one that organizes the first battle, and it was called the Battle of the Cowshed. Now, I think that this question lends itself to talking about the way that Snowball is both a good leader. So look to how far does Orwell present Snowball as a good leader, but then that ultimately, equally, he is as corrupt as the other pigs. Okay, so even because ultimately Orwell's message is where there is power equals corruption. So just put corruption, corrupt power equals corruption. So I'm thinking already that if I was answering this question and I had 3 paragraphs, so my first paragraph would be about this idea of actually caring for the animals, so caring about the revolution plus rebellion, and so wanting to educate the animals into ideas about animalism. And I think that shows him as a hero, like ultimately wanting to improve the lives of the animals by creating committees and stuff like that. And how far is he a hero? Well, ultimately they do fail, like they don't work. But is that Snowball's fault, or is that actually the animal's fault? Then my other paragraph is going to be about like the Battle of the Cowshed. So in the Battle of the Cowshed, he was the one that was fighting, and I would contrast him here to Napoleon, who is nowhere to be seen. So my next paragraph might be around those ideas. And then my final paragraph might be about however. So I'm going to talk about he is not always a hero, because he also takes part in the partaking of the milk and the apples. So he's ultimately as corrupt as a rat. So already I've got, if I had a question on Snowball, these are the ideas that I would be taking into the exam with me. So one of the things that I have here, I've got quotes, so I might try and use this to memorize quotes. So in glowing sentences, he painted a picture of Animal Farm as it might be when sordid labour was lifted from the animals' backs. So that's quite good, because he painted a picture. He's delivering speeches. He wants that sordid labour to be lifted from the animals' backs. So ultimately, he wants to improve the lives of the animals. I think that's a nice quote to take there. Snowball also busied himself with organising the other animals into committees for the various problems of the farm. So look at this. He busied himself organizing and making it into committees. He really cares about the animals. And then later on, I also could write about this, the fact that Snowball was in league with Jones, that Snowball is used by Napoleon as a scapegoat. Now, I don't think this one so much answers the idea of him being a hero, but it's important that I remember that Snowball is used as a scapegoat. Now, if you notice here, I've actually almost given you my plan, but here. So the fact that Snowball is intellectual and a visionary leader makes him maybe a hero. Snowball is intelligent, quicker in speech, and more inventive than Napoleon, and he seems to generally believe in all majors' vision for a better society. He's brave and capable of military leadership. So look at this, the Battle of the Cowshed. During the Battle of the Cowshed, he demonstrates great bravery and knowledge of strategy, leading the charge against Jones. And then you will talk about this symbolizes. Okay, what does that symbolize? And then he's an educator. He takes the lead in educating the other animals, simplifying the 7 commandments and creating committees to involve all animals in the farm management. So you've got that aspect of community and equality. So that is, if I was revising, I might do like a quiz on here, I might make some notes, I might add some flashcards. I've got my plan that I might want to write about. And then for your homework, you need to try and write a petal paragraph. Now, just as a reminder, I'm going to give you the sentences, but I'm not going to write the paragraph for you. It's about you trying to write your own petal paragraph. So you might want to remember that you want to start your answer with Orwell presents or shows Snowball to be. So the question was a hero, was it? The question was Snowball as a hero. So Orwell presents Snowball to be a hero because, so that's your point, and you're going to tell me what's within your point. Now remember guys, when I give you sentence stems, you might not use them this way. You might, I want to say this, but this doesn't fit. Make sure that you just write what you're thinking too. So this is my point. Then I'm going to make sure that I've got my evidence, and I might talk about in the text. It says, okay, and I'll add that as my evidence. And then my technique and analysis. Now for this one, I might do a few things. So I've got my quote. I might zoom in on one of my quotes. So I might zoom in on a word. Zoom in on a word. And then I would analyze. But the other way that you can also develop your analysis is also talking about the way that Orwell uses Snowball to symbolize. So that's another technique. And why is he doing this? And then the other thing that you could do is ultimately say the way that Orwell contrasts. So is a Snowball used to symbolize something, but also the way that Snowball might contrast. So you've got a few ways that you can develop your technique and your analysis. Now make sure that whatever you're talking about here is always linked to your initial idea at the top, okay? Don't start a new analysis. Make sure that whatever words, evidence, techniques that you're analyzing link to your point. So your TAs need to be linked to the point, okay? So if I'm talking about Snowball being an educator and caring for the animals, I need to make sure that I'm talking about that in my analysis here. And then finally, that link. Phrases that you want to use are things like Orwell is criticizing or Orwell is teaching us. Because remember, you've got an allegory here, and you might make links here as well to the Russian Revolution. Now, if you're feeling that you can't remember the Russian Revolution, do make a comment on the bigger ideas in terms of society. Okay? So, I hope this has given you a tiny bit of a help. Just try your best.